good when you think of the
When I went to violin restoration school, I was like the guy repairing violins with the Black Flag T-shirt on, and so it was always a goal of mine to kind of take some of the pretentiousness out of the violin shop atmosphere. If you look around the shop, you'll see a lot of wall art from local artists, a lot of roosters and John Hartford, a lot of bluegrass and old-time culture blended with some classical culture. And so that's always been my thing, is to sort of combine the two, because it's all about music and having fun and creating art. It's sort of an extension of myself, and I've always just made it a point not to take myself too seriously, but take what I do very seriously. I heard that an instructor once said for USD 497 that once I started working on the instruments for the school district, that not one sound post fell. I take a lot of pride in that, because I always make sure things were done as correctly as possible.
I think JJ has bridged those different sides of the approach to the music, to the stringed instruments, and probably a lot of it has to do with the fact that he works with the public schools and provides those rental instruments for the kids who are coming up and learning about composed music, classical music, as we usually say. I think he helps to bring those two sides together by simply being a nexus that a shop can be in a not too huge city.
Okay. I've been repairing instruments for the schools for 20 years or more, give or take.
Those are repairs, and these are the other for pickup.
Where's the repairs? I'm sorry.
In that room, yes. So we're just keeping them separate?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that's not so bad. I've always enjoyed my relationship with the teachers and the students at the shop. I feel like we've become an important part of the community that's people appreciate, and it's very valuable, and it's rewarding to me, and to have an impact on a child's life through music. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything better than that. Summer repairs, middle school instruments, high school instruments, not including bows, a couple hundred. Right about in August, when I'm delivering all the instruments, that's when the Bluegrass Festival, Walnut Valley Bluegrass Festival hits, and I'll be getting all the musicians getting ready for that want everything to play in the campgrounds, and juggling client repairs as they come in at the same time. So that's my summer. I have a lot of gratitude towards working and having that experience with the school instruments, because I've had to learn how to do a lot of different repair work from accidents happening with the school instruments. I often kid that the 6th and 7th, 8th grade band orchestra rooms are sort of war zones, because I kind of see the worst part of it in my shop. The catastrophes, the music stands going through the F-hole and out the back of the instrument, or I'll repair a cello for somebody, a student, and next week it'll come back with the neck broken out of it again or something, So it's really made me into a Swiss Army knife of lutherie.
somewhere around 14 years ago or so, my former band that was a touring band, we were on the road and I opened up my case, and I always carry, for a long time, carried 2 fiddles at one time. And I opened it up, and this fiddle I had fairly recently acquired, the neck had become disconnected with the body. And I'd never experienced that before. I was quite shocked and dismayed and rather worried. And I came here to this very shop and met JJ for the first time, and he wasn't even open to the public yet. And in what became obvious, that his true fashion, his true personality came out right at the beginning, because not only did he do a beautiful repair, he was very considerate about it and very friendly, and has a sort of a caregiver's mentality in the way that he takes care of people's instruments and the people who own them. And he knows how precious these things are to us, and they become that way to him. I needed someone also who understands fiddles. Violin is a fiddle, a violin, depends on who you're talking to, what's the difference. In some ways there's none. I usually say it's in here, but that's part of it too. A luthier who is devoted to, of course, great violin music, but really the tradition of fiddle music and what that means and what that entails. They're going to naturally have a appreciation for instruments that would be not considered in the violin and symphonic world. They understand the individual personalities.
I never get tired of this day bringing back a fiddle from resurrecting an old fiddle back to hear its voice again. And then it kind of wakes up. There's a process and time where the violin, after you put it all together, it hasn't been played for a long time. It sort of like wakens up, it kind of remembers its voice, so to speak. And some fresh glue will kind of soften up, and it gets played in. And if a violin I spent a lot of work on doesn't, now I'm disappointed because I had all these high expectations of it sounding really good because everything looked right and the varnish was nice, or it just had all this character. I just wanted it to sound good. And it doesn't. I'll start from scratch. I'll take the top off and I'll take the bass bar out and I'll change out some blocks and I'll try to experiment just a little bit. And sometimes I'll get a violin that sounds just absolutely horrible, sounding just this voice that probably it's never had in its life, and it's just so rewarding and exciting. I really get a kick out of it. Never get tired of it.
Being in the company of others who play fiddle and they have an instrument that may not be incredibly valuable in price, but is very dear to them. Maybe it's got a family connection, or maybe it's just an age of an era where this music was a little bit more common. I think he was probably drawn into all those mysteries too. Mysteries. I think JJ likes a really good mystery. And I think he's got such an imagination that he can sort of place himself in different times with those instruments. Maybe.
We just got this in from an auction, and there's no label. It appears to be I don't know, I'm too early to tell yet. It could be French, of a particular famous model maker, Casper's Hello. Seeing that the everything is pretty spot on as far as measurements go. So, haven't you got enough in you to try this thing out? It's it needs it needs a better bridge and probably some more sound post work, but I'm just kind of eager to see what this thing's like coming right out of the gate. I think I just kind of fell for the romantic part of violin
restoration and creation. It's a very romantic sport. It's just, it's so mysterious. It's elegant. It's an infinite learning experience. Every time you get into a violin, an old fiddle, you're going back in time. Sometimes, 100 or 200 years before anyone's been in it. The violin is meant to be restored over and over and over again, the way it was designed, and how it's just like a wooden speaker sitting on your shoulder, and there's an infinite amount of possibilities for voices. It's really an interesting instrument, and I guess it's romantic depending upon who's playing it.
Sounds great.
If your car isn't running right, but you've got a really trusted car auto mechanic, and you get it back and you start it up and you start driving, you're like, that's what it's supposed to feel like. It's kind of what it's like with JJ and doing his fiddles. And I just know if it's been JJ'd, it's going to be like running happy.
Every single part of this instrument relies on the way it's made, every part of it, in order for it to create this voice. So the JJ-isms are probably just an obsessive minutia headspace I get in when I kind of analyze how it's made and what the measurements are, and if anything is off, I'll just kind of go over the whole list. And it's also important to kind of know the person and the style of music that they're playing and how they play.
Feels good. Nice setup, really nice.
I take a lot of pride in my setup work.
Great setup.
You could take the same fiddle into two different shops and it'll sound like a completely different instrument depending upon the setup work. I never get tired of the experience when someone comes in and they're almost about ready to like just kind of give it up, and they've had their violin for a long time, and they've never been happy with the sound, and I'll get it, and then I'll just realize that no one's made a good sound post for this thing, or I will spend endless amount of time until I find its best voice. And I never get tired of it. And the rewarding part is when they get their instrument back, and if they don't have this instant moment of almost their eyes rolling in the back of their head or this pure joy look for a second, I haven't done my job. I've been fortunate to have a very inspiring staff. With Doug Dubois, we started the Friday Old Time Jams, and now Jesse Carr and Nora. Nora kind of specializes in the New England style old time fiddling, and Jesse, he's just really into old time fiddling of all kinds, I believe. So, but between the two of them, we now host the Friday Jams and keep it going.
From the top, let's do it 3 times through again. And I'm going to play it with drones this time. Don't worry about that, I just want to have...
Jesse teaches mandolin and old time fiddling, and Nora teaches as well.
I'll just catch up with you.
We try to have teachers that teach all skill levels and all styles. So and if we don't have teachers here that will teach in-house, we have a list of teachers that we recommend, and we do a screening of the teachers and make sure that when a client comes in and needs a teacher, we take for account their age, their experience, and where they want to end up and go with it. We have an old time fiddle open jam class. It's a free workshop that we offer that Trisha Spencer and Howard Raines hosts. There's usually a blend, a mixture of all ages from 5 or 6 years old up to about 80, 85 years old, and everyone learning how to play a tune together and having a lot of fun. When COVID hit, there was this big unknown if the beautiful music was going to survive or not, or if any of us were going to survive. It was pretty scary. How to navigate things safely. Everybody there were people that didn't take the virus, the pandemic very seriously, but we took it very seriously, and we felt that the only way we were going to try to survive is to try to conduct business in as safe as possible way without spreading the virus. What we had to do is we had to put up the plexiglass, and we didn't let people in the store for a good, maybe 6 months, if 3 to 6 months. And we found a way to conduct business by having our van, our beautiful music van, being basically a big drop box parked in front of the store. And we would wave at our clients through the window and make appointments for when they would come to either they were going to drop off an instrument or pick up an instrument or buy a book or a set of strings. So it was all creatively done the way we normally do things, just that nobody was allowed in the store. And we wore masks, and Nora was a big part in helping me keep the business going by, taking care of the rentals and making sure payments were made, and I was able to stay on the bench and repair things, because when the pandemic hit, I couldn't have a staff. I couldn't have a full staff, and everybody was taking care of their families and being safe. So we had to very carefully and creatively navigate ourselves through a pandemic, and it wasn't easy. And to add fuel onto fire, during the coldest month of the year in February, there was a water pipe that buzzed 2 doors down and flooded our entire basement during a pandemic. So I came to work and there was a foot of water through our entire downstairs. We had floating instruments, floating violins, and benches and cases, and then equipment, and then the mold, set in. So not only did we have to deal with the pandemic, but we had to deal with, restoring from a flood. So we've had our challenges, but thankfully, I think during hard times like a pandemic or a recession, I think it gives people incentive or something, or people are inspired to create, and they have time. During the pandemic, everybody had time to themselves to do what they can't do normally because they're too busy working, or so people had time to play the violin and play old time music, and I think that helped keep the business going, was people wanting to spend time doing that. Love and gratitude, I started stamping that on my bridges because I kind of thought that it was a very positive message in a very short package that had a lot of impact. And I thought it would be a great idea while someone was playing. It's the bridge stamp would say love and gratitude, and while they were playing, they would always see it at one time or another. And so, I think it's a way of kind of making a world a better place by seeing those words in your daily life as much as possible. You know, a positive mindset and remembering. You always have to remember to be grateful. Between the spirit of an entrepreneur from my grandfather and my mom and dad, always, you know, making sure that I ended up doing what I liked to do and loved to do, to follow my passion. I was able to find myself a place in the world that that is very rewarding and gives to the music community. It's beautiful music.